So if someone wanted to start their own country, that's a tricky question. There are two sides to it, essentially. There's the legal side, which is that you have rights and obligations against other entities. You exist in this international environment, which is a legal environment. Then there's this other side, which is this sociological kind of entity, where there are people who have some kind of cohesive existence. So to what degree can those both be manufactured?
If somebody wanted to start his own country, there are some basics. You can, in theory, get a lot of people together or get a few people together and have your population. Territory is a little bit more difficult, but I suppose there are ways that one can find territory. The big question, if you do that, is whether it would be contested by somebody.
I remember a French diplomat telling me that you can't have lots of silly little countries, as he put it, lots of silly little states. Clearly, his motivation or his concern was that lots of silly little states would make his life more complicated, which it might do. But that doesn't seem to me to be a very important criterion for deciding whether a state should exist.
People may not want to create states in a place that's a pain in the neck to manage because of the geographic logistics. But I suppose it can be done.
The frontier has always been important, even back when humans were tribes of apes living in Africa. Sometimes the tribe would split into two, and one group would go off and start a new tribe. And as civilization arose, this became really important as a way to try out new social systems. Everything from Rome to America was created by a group of people who went to a new place to try out a new way of life. But we've run out of space on land to try out new ways of life. Every rock in the world is claimed by some country, and countries won't give you sovereignty to experiment with a new way of life. So the SeaSteading Institute intends to open the oceans so that groups of people can go build structures on the ocean and live there and have autonomy.
So we're here at the University of Berkeley Richmond Field Station towing tank facility. This is a towing tank where we test offshore structures, and we're testing the SeaSteading Institute's structure that we've designed. The objective of the platform is to make all of those people happy and comfortable at sea for a very long period of time. We can go anywhere in the middle of the ocean and not extend it from a place, but start from scratch and open up a whole and create a whole city from nothing. You can also move that city around and live on it. So the next step to me would be to become completely independent from land and making your own power from renewable sources. There's a lot of ocean, current, wind energy that we could tap into. Building your own food. One of the things that would be important with the big city is you could move and you could follow the sun, so you can actually grow plants all year long, going south in the wintertime and then going back north in the summertime. So you could be self-sufficient on food. Water, I think we already are self-sufficient with the SeaStead through water makers. Those require energy only, and so we could have solar panels as well.
The goal is to revolutionize the quality of government worldwide by creating multiple competing cities in the ocean, each of which is trying out a different form of government so that people can experiment with all these different ways of life, and every country in the world can see which work and which don't, copy the good procedures, throw out the bad procedures, and we can just advance this whole sphere of human life.
The real way you get this going is you have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people interested, ready to visit these seasteads. You develop interested businesses. We've been reaching out to a lot of different types of business ideas. And once you get people willing to dedicate themselves to visiting them or being part of them for a certain amount of time, you're able to start funding the first ones and just get them going and start creating these communities.
We are contacted by Peter Thiel. Peter is the founder of PayPal and CEO of PayPal. He's also the first investor in Facebook. And Peter gave us $500,000 in funding to kind of prove and develop our ideas for the first couple of years, and that's what we've been operating on so far.
So here we are at the SeaSteading offices in Palo Alto, and we commissioned a design for platform that basically is 300 feet by 300 feet. It's about a city block, a small city block, to sort of represent an option. So we held a contest. This was the winner for personality, and it is kind of a fascinating design because I think they're using all cargo containers basically for the living structure. So it's extremely modular, and you can see in the picture that there's actually in the process of moving a living unit to a new location. And this was our grand prize winner. Most of the submissions are very modern, very sleek. A lot of them look very sort of sci-fi, and this looks like a Mediterranean villa. A seastead doesn't necessarily have to be this sort of sterile environment, that it could look like a beautiful city.
It really looks like whoever designed this was designing it with the concept of modularity in mind. Mm-hmm. There's places in this park where the path just goes up to the edge of the seastead, and it's, it looks like it's meant to have another similar module docked right up next to it where the path would continue. So, the module looks a little strange sort of standing on its own as a single platform, but when you envision this as part of a seastead city that grew organically with dozens or hundreds of these in a large neighborhood, you can really kind of see the beauty of it, I think.
I'm not inclined to call myself a nation builder until I'm actually building a nation. I think we are supporting the idea of building a nation and presenting it as a real possibility when many people don't think of it as a real possibility.
There's an element where it's never quite going to be the right label for what we do, because we ultimately aren't trying to go and start the new seasteading country. We want to facilitate other people being able to start countries on the ocean and opening a new frontier for everybody.
Some of the possible societies that people have proposed that are, maybe a little bit contentious are everything from out Vegasing Vegas, gambling, drugs, prostitution, the crazy hedonistic paradise, to the other extreme, say, Sharia law Muslim country with very strict rules, not a lot of rights for women, things like that. So each of those pisses off very different types of people, but they both piss people off. And again, to me, what matters is that people are choosing to go there. If those women are being kept against their will, I think that's terrible, and I think that we should work to get them free. If they consent to be part of that society, then, who am I to tell them not to?
I've seen a lot of social movements, and I've been around long enough to remember hippie communes and so on, and I've seen a lot of things fail. But people basically don't cooperate that well if they don't have something strong uniting them. So if you have a group that has their own religious beliefs and they're feel persecuted, they'll hang together. You can do groups of that sort, but a lot of those groups are not groups that you particularly want to encourage. I mean, the polygamy and the idea that women should be subservient to all their men, that's pretty motivating for some people.
I think there's anything wrong.
Hopefully not too many.
Here's the point of doing something on a seastead that can be done in a nation state, right? Part of the point is to do something that can't naturally be done in a nation state, but that leaves the problem of what do you do? Well, you have to pick the things that they're basically just gonna ignore for a while. And you can't do really crazy things because they'll come get you.
As a woman, women are willing to raise a family on a seastead. Like, how willing would I be to move out there with a couple kids and know that they won't have the same access to different resources in a society that, say, living in the United States with this established, if seriously flawed education system has, and that'll be a few generations down the line. I do think the initial seasteads will be populated primarily by men, and that strikes me as funny in some ways.
What I see happening is that the future of man is really dependent on developing a new frontier. The oceans is really a stepping stone to outer space. There's a lot of resources, food, energy that we can extract from the ocean and eventually build space elevators and colonize the planets and other stars.